Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me once again. Trump did it, man. He got his big, beautiful bill passed through the Senate, through the House. Now, more than likely, he'll have some big press conference tomorrow morning talking about how great this new bill is going to be. In that bill, there was a whole bunch of emissions-related changes that are going to be made. So California was receiving waivers where they can set their own emission standards. California, as we know, has the most restrictive emission standards out there. Affected everything from oil refineries to cars to people opening up paint shops. That all went away through one of these CRAs. Now that California has lost its ability to make laws through these waivers and have stricter emissions than the rest of the country or the federal government, will they still try and make their own smog laws, make their own emissions laws? I'm sure they will. In order for California to do something against federal law, they have to take it to the court. They have to fight it in court. And I don't know if California wants to do that. How far are they going to go? They're going to have to fight something that's a law, not just a recommendation, not an executive order to the president. But anyways, let's take a look at our governor, Gavin Newsom, being very upset about what just happened.
You, Doctor, and Madam Secretary, thank you for the opportunity to be back here on a roof that is familiar, as is this subject matter. It was just a number of years ago that we were here announcing a similar lawsuit against then Trump administration as it relates to the issue of California's well-established authority under the Clean Air Act to advance the cause of low-carbon green growth. We prevailed in that effort a number of years ago. We were hopeful that we wouldn't be back, but we weren't naive. Once the administration, Trump 2.0, was sworn in, we anticipated being back here, quite literally back here on this roof, announcing what happens to be the 23rd lawsuit against the Trump administration. We didn't expect the path, however, that they would take in this instance. This notion of a CRA, which if you're paying attention, then you're confused. No one understands what a CRA is, and that's what this is also all about. There's confusion. It's intended to be confusing. What is a GAO? What is a parliamentarian? What the Senate did has been referred to correctly as a nuclear option. They decided to change the rules that have been established in the United States Senate, protocols that have been well established for centuries, in order to attack California, in order to pollute more. This isn't complicated. This is about pollution. This is about the act of theft, because pollution's a subsidy. It's an act of theft against our kids and grandkids. It's not complicated. What this act did was allows polluters to pollute and pollute more, impacting you, impacting all of us. This was also a big day for China. China is celebrating. This was a day that marks a moment of acceleration in their capacity to dominate in the next big global industry. California was one of the leading players in this space. The world we invented now is competing against us. California established an innovation framework that has allowed us to now have over 60 manufacturers that have headquartered in the state of California alone. California created the rules that now have been attacked, that help create and support the development of an iconic American company by the name of Tesla. Tesla simply would not have existed as a company had not these rules been applied, advancing those rules in the regulatory markets that created a level of certainty that created the opportunity to take risks and invest in the development of one of America's most iconic companies. So this is about our economy. It's about our health. It's about our global competitiveness. It is, Donald Trump, about our national security. And it's about our ability to continue to innovate and outpace competition all across the globe. Now, the good news is, as I noted, we anticipated this moment. And we are firm and committed in our efforts to continue our leadership in the state of California. I had a chance this morning, my staff gave me a speech by Ronald Reagan. It was a July 14th, 1984 speech. It was a radio speech that President Reagan gave, celebrating his environmental leadership, as he referred to over 15 years prior, as governor of the state of California, where we established these rules. It's right that we're here. The California EPA. The California EPA was established by a Republican governor, another Republican governor by the name of Pete Wilson. Those rules that were advanced, that Ronald Reagan reflected 15 years later, were not only advanced by him in the creation of the California Air Resources Board in 1967, but were afforded to him under the authority granted to him by a Republican president by the name of Richard Nixon under the Clean Air Act in 1970. Bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats recognizing the urgency to address the issue of pollutants, to address the issue of public health. That's what's being assaulted. That's what's being attacked. I was in the Oval Office a few weeks back, and in anticipation, if you think I was overstating of this moment, I looked up just right above President Trump, above the Resolute desk, interestingly, is a portrait of Ronald Reagan. And I told the president, he will be looking down at you as he is right now, the moment you sign this bill, authorizing the degradation of his legacy. He'll be looking down in shame when you sign this bill. He laughed, but it's not funny. Our kids and our grandkids, pollution, an act of theft. Polluters are now able to pollute more. This is not about electric vehicles. Why did they just remove one of the waivers that has nothing to do with electric vehicles on the issue of NOx? This is all about polluters being able to pollute more. Big oil buying off politicians. General Motors doing the same. General Motors, who we've been working with for decades and decades in good faith to address the issues of flexibility, working behind our backs, working behind your back and our kids' back. Legacy companies that will no longer be as competitive globally as a consequence, working against their own fiduciary interests for short-term gain. Big day for big oil, big day for GM and Toyota, big day for China. Terrible day for your kids, terrible day for air quality, terrible day for innovation and entrepreneurship. So we're here, mindful of the moment we're in. You saw the vandalism as it relates to that other bill they signed today, just gutting the clean energy efforts in this country, gutting further subsidies so that we can continue to lead. It's an extraordinary moment in American history. And so we're here, firm in our resolve at this moment to be held to account, to a higher level of accountability on behalf of our kids and grandkids, to push back and say no. We can do more and we can do better with a spirit of cooperation and flexibility that has always been part of our program as it relates to our zero-emission vehicle efforts. Hybrid cars included, hydrogen cars included. This is not exclusively about electric vehicles. That is an incredibly important point to reinforce and to underscore. And let me close by underscoring and reinforcing additional point. When perhaps you reflect on my comments about China, I hope you'll consider that 60% of the global EV market now, China dominates and controls. President Xi was just out there with President Putin, not just talking about the war in Ukraine, talking about flooding the market in Russia for Chinese-made electric vehicles. Same in the European Union. They are dominating this space, and we are ceding our leadership, and we are going backwards a half a century with yesterday's technology. This is like Blockbuster or Standard Oil doubling down on stupid. The world is radically changing. Mobility is changing. These technologies are state-of-the-art. The costs, there's a brand new model of electric vehicle called the Lamborghini Mini, $9,700. You won't be able to get your hands on that because that's being produced overseas. We're importers now of electric vehicles, not exporters. Talk about the balance of trade. You've got electric vehicles now that are charging within 5 minutes with range of over 300 miles. Range anxiety? It's no longer the case. 178,000, this is an interesting fact. For those that say it can't be done, 178,000 public charge points in the state of California. There's only 120,000 gas nozzles. 178,000 electric charge points. We're building out the infrastructure. Over a quarter of our sales, new car sales, are an electric vehicle. Consumers are moving in this direction all across the globe. China is already 50+%. They're at the tipping point of electric vehicles. Has anyone been there? Have you gone into one of these cars? It's the backbone for autonomy. It's the backbone for mobility. The seamlessness to which people are able to now go home with two-way chargers and charge back to the grid to actually earn an income in those off hours. We're ceding that to our biggest global competitor. That's what just happened in the United States Senate, and they will pay a huge price. It will never go back to its original form. This nuclear option, overturning their own Senate parliamentarian, overturning their own GAO who said you cannot do this. That's why we're confident in our lawsuit. They didn't care. They want to pollute more.
So as you can see, he is very upset. I'm not going to make this a video about bashing the governor, right? He has his politics. This isn't a channel about politics. Unfortunately, all this emission stuff and car stuff has to do with politics. So we kind of got to get into it. But he describes a lot of problems. In this interview, there's a few other people that come up there. He has a doctor, a pulmonologist, talks about the pollution and all that. In the 70s, pollution was terrible. So did we need the EPA at that time? Possibly. It's like anything in government, right? You give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Did we need the EPA? Probably. Could have the automotive companies gotten better gas mileage, better emissions? Maybe, if they would allow them to. The Volkswagen came in, was getting, however many miles to the gallon on the little piece of junk Volkswagen. Honda and Toyota started making those little cars that were very fuel efficient. Now, could the automotive companies have gotten a swift kick in the rear and readjusted everything? I wouldn't say yes, right? Because innovation doesn't come from government, obviously, right? That's why, we still have homeless problem. That's why our roads suck. The government doesn't make things better. They actually make things worse, so to speak. This is a generalized thing that I'm talking here. I don't want to rant too much. But anyways, let's go over some things that he talked about. He says that California made the rules. Exactly. That's what we're talking about. Did the market need EVs? Did the market really want electric vehicles? Or did California make electric vehicles a thing? Before Tesla came out, there was always electric vehicles. Ford had an electric Ranger. And it had a bunch of, big giant 780 cold cranking amp batteries. I think it had like 12 of them in the bed. It wasn't a truck anymore. It was just an electric motor with a bunch of batteries in the bed. Tesla came at it from a whole different vision. They did actually make electric vehicles cool. As soon as the Tesla came out, I hear everybody talk about, hey, have you seen the Model S? The Model S looks cool. And it does look cool. I'm not against electric cars. I've never been. I think they're innovative. I think the concept is good. Now, is it really about emissions? Is it really about saving the environment? Some of these batteries, some of the stuff that's put into these cars can pollute more than a regular gas car. So he talks about CRAs, right? The Congressional Review Act, and how it's confusing. It's like, bro, you're the governor, right? Your people in the Senate and in the House, that's why you guys got voted in. You guys are the ones that are supposed to. If it ain't right, you stop it. If Trump is doing something stupid, stop him. Why are you coming at us like we should have done something? Come on, man. It just missed me with that stuff. He's talking about that it allows polluters to pollute. I don't want dirty air in California. I live here, right? I don't want it to go back to the 70s. I don't. But what's the happy medium? Are we just going to regulate to where right now, I don't know if you guys know, but gas is going to be $8 a gallon in a few years because we've over-regulated everything where people can't afford to drive to work anymore because gas is $8 a gallon, right? Well, they say, well, that's why you should have got an electric vehicle. Okay. We get blackouts all the time here, right? So now we're going to run our generators or our solar generators. None of this stuff is cheap. If you would allow the markets to innovate, right? When cars first came out, how many government agencies were out there funding cars? When Ford made the Model T, was there a government saying, hey, here, innovate? No, he did it because the market required it. The market wanted it. He says that China's going to be able to innovate. Like, look, come on, man. China's a communist country. Is that what you want to be? You want to make people drive these EVs because it's the future, right? I'm not saying it's not. Again, I'm not against it. But we don't allow companies to innovate. You want them to do things your way. And that's the problem. That's the whole problem I see with all this EV stuff. That we're not allowing the Teslas to do the thing. We're not allowing different companies to say, hey man, I can make that battery cheaper, I can make this. No, you got to do it this way, because we want them, by 2035, there has to be 1 million, cars in California that are running on EV. It's not feasible. It is feasible if you force it, right? And that's the direction we're heading in. Talks about Tesla, that Tesla wouldn't exist without California. Hey man, you got to give it to them on that. So they did, through the federal government, make these rules. They said, we need to have electric cars that do this, and that by this an amount of time. And the federal government said, here you go. Make it happen, right? Make electric cars. So now we get to the meat of it. CARB and the California EPA. Have they been overstepping their bounds? Have they now become something that just over-regulates any industry that they don't agree with to death? He talks about big oil. It's like, bro, have you seen a Tesla? What's it made out of? It's not made out of steel. What, 90% of the thing is plastic? Where does that come from? From oil companies. So he's not against the oil companies. So I've looked all over the internet and I can't find what the CRAs are or what they actually specify. So if anybody out there knows where I can find these CRAs and actually look through them so I can see what they're talking about, I know they have to do it with emissions. That's like probably the only thing I know. But them bringing up that CRA with the NOx is a big deal, because if they can't regulate NOx, now we're talking. Now that's where we might see smog going away completely, because if they can't regulate. There's been some articles of Governor Newsom saying that the EPA has gone too far. Now I don't know if that's just a ploy to get elected, because you can see he's a good politician. He's a great politician. He's gonna run for president. He wants it. So I don't know if that's just flip-flopping to get, the other side to vote. So that's it, guys. Trump did it. Big beautiful bill is on the table. He's gonna more than likely sign it tomorrow. The CRAs are passed. They've gotten rid of California's waivers to regulate. And that is the important thing. It still remains to be seen where we're going to end up with smog. I've read articles out there that the state of California they've been talking about getting rid of it and going to yearly inspections, right? So they're still going to get their money, because it's a probably billion-dollar thing that goes on in California. And they're just not going to say, oh, well, let's just stop doing it. They want their money. They've been talking about regulating brake pads now and tires because they pollute. So they're going to forget about emissions, because nowadays, mostly every single car out there produces very little emissions, right? So now they got to go after something else. They can't roll you on the dyno for $100 or $150 a car, right? They just plug it into a computer and it passes. So now they're going to regulate tires and brakes. See what I'm saying? We can't have anything nice. We can't just agree that, yeah, hybrid works better than electric. Yeah, we should still have gas for some of these cars, because they're getting more efficient. Anyways, guys, that's the video. That's the update. Like and subscribe if you're liking the content. Leave me some comments down there. If you guys can find the CRAs for me, send me a link, because I want to read through them. Thank you guys for joining me again. I'll catch you guys on the next one.